So easy to get on that treadmill and then catch ourselves a period of time later going, what happened? Sharing that, looks like fatigue, mental and emotional, definitely everybody's experienced that. 80% of you working or thinking about work after hours, that can be common to, even in project times. And then negative or cynical attitudes, that can come when we feel a lack of autonomy, a lack of empowerment, where we might feel like we're caught in something that isn't congruent, even maybe with our values. And so we can have those kinds of feelings. So these are typical situations that happen that we're noticing at work. The other thing that can happen is that our relationships at home get affected. So we might be a little bit less patient. We might be a little more shut down. We might be a bit more snappy with our loved ones, or even just a little bit more zombie-like because we're so exhausted. Often when we get into a situation when work is draining us, it has a spillover effect, as we all know. So these are all very, very common things that can happen to us for short periods of time, or it can be very critical, like it's getting worse and worse and worse, and it gets to a point where we have to do something about it. So let's talk about the three main causes, or the three main contributors to the term burnout. One is the exhaustion, physical, mental, and emotional. So that exhaustion shows up. So if you wake up in the morning and you're still tired, that's exhaustion. Okay. And so sometimes what we're choosing to do for self-care might not be true self-care. And then what we're doing ends up being a counter benefit to us. In other words, it robs our sleep. If we're drinking alcohol too late in the evening, or we're eating too late in the evening, or we're eating too many carb, fat, salts too late in the evening, all of those, of course, affect the digestive system and the depth of sleep. Sedatives do not work. What goes on in the brain during night gets dampened by sedatives, whether it's a sleeping pill or even valerian tea. When we're using a sedative, basically we're changing the way the brain is cleaning itself and rewiring itself from the day's events. And that, if you'll know it in your dreams. If your dreams are affected by any substances you're taking to support stress of any kind, then that's not helping the mind. It's not helping the brain rewire and sort itself. And then the performance goes down. Basically, our cognitive difficulties are mostly affected by the prefrontal cortex, this part of our brain up here, which is our executive functioning part of the brain. So that part of our brain is key for memory, it's key for problem solving, it's key for emotional management of our life. And if this part of our brain kind of gets shut down when we're under stress, fight, flight, freeze, basically, we don't have that ongoing capability to have control over our emotions or make good, quick decisions. We space out more, and all of those things affect our cognitive performance. So what we do at night, our depth of sleep, the food we eat, the movement we take, all of those things are going to affect the self-care that we need to do. On the most simplest level, it's really energy management. So there's issues that can be corporate in terms of burnout, and then there's issues that are personal. Let's talk about the personal first. Sorry, my phone's going crazy. If we're not on the very base level paying attention to what's going on in ourselves with some form of mindfulness, we can overwork. We can do what Kathy kind of mentioned. We can kind of push through. And sometimes we do that for a project or a deadline where we'll just grit our teeth. We know we've got to do this in the next 4 hours, and we'll push through. It's burnout comes though when we do that too frequently, and exhaustion comes in on the physical, emotional, mental level. We have an erosion of our engagement to the point where we can become cynical, or thirdly, our efficiency, we become ineffective. And so that's again a brain thing, an energy management thing. So if we're managing our energy in terms of self-care coming in and managing what we do in terms of output, mostly we can handle the ups and downs of project ends and or changes in management team, or that we change a project, or any of the things that happen day to day or week to week or month to month at work. But if we're under a constant state of duress, if we're losing our energy more than we're filling it, then those three things combine into burnout. Does that ring a bell for a few folks? Okay.
Yeah.
Burnout is not a small percentage of the workforce. Like we wrote in the blog, it's something like 63% of the workforce has experienced burnout in their career. I'm kind of concerned with COVID that some of the things that help us stay well and avoid burnout are not available for us when we're working from home. Some of the things that we need to do to be extra vigilant about is like not working in our pajamas, right? If you're just working from home, work can get kind of schmoozed from the coffee, breakfast in the morning through the day. And then we come back after dinner, we're still catching up on a few emails. And then all of a sudden our work days extended even further, and our opportunity to recharge and care for ourselves is diminished because we're now working even longer hours. So some of the things to counter burnout, energy loss, is that we have to be mindful. We have to be mindful to notice, am I losing energy? Am I losing focus with my mind? Is my mood shifting? Is my attitude shifting? Is my happiness factor with my work shifting? And what am I noticing in my body? So mindfulness to the body is a great first step to start to notice if we're approaching burnout. Headaches, shoulder tension. These aren't just things because we slept wrong at night. Nausea or tied up areas in our solar plexus. Usually stress, chronic stress, burnout is chronic stress, leads to those contractions in the body. Lower back pain might not be just because your posture's a little bit off while you're sitting at the computer. We all have a weak part in our body, and the weak part in our body always flares up when we're under stress. So we want to have that mindfulness aspect, scanning our body throughout the day, noticing day to week, what's going on for us. Am I waking up tired? Am I going to bed too late? Am I mentally focused? Am I physically drained? Do I feel sluggish? It's kind of like carrying a little, you could do a journal for yourself, a work journal. What am I noticing about how my state of my being, mental, emotional, physical, spiritual even? And what am I noticing about my attitude to work and my efficiency or efficacy at work? And just track that. And then if we notice that we're going off track, we've got to do some things that are going to bring a change. So of course, daily resourcing on the 5 paths of balanced health that we all know about in Mountain Trek, nutrition for fuel and nutrification, movement, including all 4 aspects of fitness, cardiovascular endurance, muscular strength, core stability and posture, and flexibility. Then sleep hygiene, making sure that we're sanctifying those 7 to 9 hours a night to get the deepest sleep possible. So doing the sleep hygiene before we go to bed so that we're lowering the brain waves, we're going into a parasympathetic nervous state so that we go into the deepest state we can while we sleep. And then stress management, doing something that replaces the feel-good hormone bathing that we get from our tongue getting triggered with salt, carb, and fat. So you've all heard of the 5 that we like to purport. Do something creative for 20 minutes. So that might mean scheduling that into your day timer. Taking up a new creative pursuit. Could be getting touched for 20 minutes. A massage you schedule regularly once a week or something. Could be that you do something where you bring your mind and your body in the present moment for maybe 10 to 20 minutes. That could be meditation, yoga, a martial art, could be rock climbing at the gym if they are all wearing masks. But you've got to do something that puts you in the present moment into that flow state, presence. Number 4, pet an animal. 5 minutes is all it takes. Just like in Alex's little video that he put in the Healthy Bites on Monday. Hopefully the dog isn't going to bite you while you're petting it, but you want to pet an animal, cat or dog or whoever's your best buddy. And the 5th one, go into nature. So don't stay stuck in the house. Even if you have to wait till the weekend and get out and get some nature bathing or forest immersion and go for a 90-minute walk in nature, it'll replenish, recharge, and we lower cortisol with those activities and bathe our brain with serotonin, our mood enhancing hormone, dopamine, our reward, feel good hormone, and oxytocin, our bonding hormone. All 3 of those we're craving constantly when we're under duress, when we're under stress. Physical release, super important. It's a great way to take the concretization that happens in our neck and our headache and our body tightening up from feeling pressure for deadlines or dissatisfaction in what's going on with work or being in too many meetings or too many emails. And we go and blow that off. Maybe it's playing racquetball, maybe it's dancing, maybe it's going for a run, but each of us has some way where we know we move the body in an intense enough way where we move energy through the body. So a physical release is super helpful when we're managing the buildup of stress at work. Avoid the caffeine, alcohol, and sugar and sedative kind of movement that we do when we're feeling low. It's easy to go for those things just to kind of cope. They're just coping mechanisms. But if we do them too long, they can become a habit. They can become an obsession or addiction. And then we are actually draining more than we're benefiting. So be mindful about the use of those things. Disconnect, super important. When we're not at work, we need to disconnect. Now, that doesn't mean you have to totally disconnect on your weekend, depending on your job and responsibilities, or your evenings after your work hours. But maybe you schedule only a particular time in the evening so that you can be with your kids or do other things. And then you just give yourself 1/2 hour to check emails. And the same on the weekend. You don't just let it schmooze through the whole weekend. You've got to sanctify your own private time when you're completely unplugged. There's more burnout now because of the inundation and the constant connection than there was in the 1970s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s. Way more, because we never get away. So we're constantly on. It's super important to have a confidant. So it can be tricky at work to have a confidant, but sometimes you might notice that there's a general malaise at work that's common to your own feelings about the structure of the organization or the culture of the organization. And then if there's a group of you, you could do something corporately and come towards HR or to a senior manager to talk about a change. But regardless of that, each of us individually needs somebody that we can go to talk to about the struggles that we have. And that could be a therapist. It could be a mentor, a career mentor. It could be a career coach. But it's very important to have somebody because aloneness is a huge contributor to burnout. When we feel alone, that limbic part of our brain, that social emotional part of our brain really aches. The negative feelings will really increase because we're trying to problem solve. So our mind starts to generate more negative thoughts and we get into the spiral. We go down the rabbit hole. We have to empower ourselves, whether our corporate culture supports it or not, to prioritize and schedule both our work and our private time. We have to prioritize that recharging of our battery, even at work, even if it means that we work for a period of time, then we take a break. Maybe you've heard about the 50-minute hour, or there's been all kinds of books and apps that have come out saying, how long do we have attention span for? How productive can we be for what length of time? And then what do we do to recharge after that? Typically, cognitively, we're good for close to an hour. Some say an hour to an hour and a half. Then we have to change our circumstance. Either we change what we're doing as a task, or we just get up and move and do some stretching or do something different. That break for 5 to 10 minutes between the chunks of focused concentration renews the brain. And in those chunks, it's worth going to get a glass of water or going to get a healthy snack so we recharge and refuel the mind. These are things we need to do at work so that we're efficient and we're keeping the brain energized and focused, and we're giving it breaks, long a period of time, like 50 minutes, focus hard, shut off our devices and the platforms that could interrupt us, work, get that work done, take a 10-minute break, maybe 5 of it, you're just going to check your devices, and 5 is just for you. Maybe even it's just to sit, close your eyes, relax, and breathe. If we don't build in relaxation and rest and rejuvenation, we're just burning up all of our energy. And if we do that day after week after month, we're not going to perform as well. So all of this is about energy management so that when we're performing, we're top. We're energized, we're focused, we take a break, rejuvenate, do the next section of focus.
Heard something that Kathy brought up, I think, is incredibly poignant. And she said, pushing through it. And that to me defines burnout. You wake up and you don't feel fully recharged, and you say to yourself, okay, I just got to push through today, and I work as hard as I can, and that means I'll be as productive as possible, and then I'll recharge tonight. And then that repeats itself, that cycle repeats itself. So we're constantly thinking there's some future version of myself that is charged, recharged, and full of energy, but we keep pushing that off. And so breaking that cycle, I think, is incredibly important. So one, I think it takes faith that taking those steps that you're talking about will actually lead to a more efficient output. That's something I'd like you to elaborate on a little bit is,
Yeah.
is how do we establish, I mean, you're saying all this stuff and it's great, and I think we can all nod along and believe it.
So let's put it into task. Let's put it into action. If I start off with the foundation of mindfulness, and that could be as simple as journaling, and I come into work and I might just quickly journal how I did yesterday when I got home for self-care and sleep. Just take a couple notes. Then I'm going to pull out my calendar. I'm going to prioritize what I'm going to work on today. I'm going to segment my day into time periods where I work hard for, maybe you can work really well for an hour and a half. I'm personally more of a 50-minute person. I'll segment for 50 minutes, then I'm going to take 10 minutes. 5 of those 10 minutes, I might still give to work, but that's when I check my devices. I'm only going to give 5 minutes for that. Then the next 5 minutes is for me to recharge. And then I'm going to go, maybe if it's at 10 o'clock, that's when I have my morning snack. Or maybe if it's at 11 o'clock and I'm snacked, that's when I sit and meditate for 5 minutes in my office or at home in our home office. And so I'm going to invoke these actions and do it like an experiment. I'm going to set them all with a prompt. If I just think I'm going to do them, it's too easy to get caught in the pushing through and the action of work. So I interrupt my workday with a buzz and a text that goes off. Okay, you're 5 more minutes and your 50 minutes is up. So I know I've got 5 minutes to finish what I'm working on. Then I have my break. It's an experiment. And then at the end of the day, when I've done these prioritizations and time scheduling and recharging my battery, I pull my journal back out before I finish my day and I just scan myself. How does my body feel? What's my energy level like? What's my mind's focus level like? How is my performance today? I'm looking at my measurables so that I can do that with mindfulness, and then the next day track again, and then the next day track again. And then I'm going to look over the week, and then I'll be looking over a month, and I'm going to see a change. If I don't see a change, I've got to reevaluate, and I've got to either add or subtract something else to make a difference. We have to take control of our lives right down to the minutes that we calculate our time, or else it just schmoozes out and we'll just work too much. We'll work all day and night in our pajamas. We'll say that we're working really hard, but meanwhile our energy's dropping and dropping, and our moods are getting sour, and our relationships are getting kind of messed up, and we feel more alone, and we feel ultimately we know we're less efficient. We all know that when we get caught up. So mindfulness is the way to track.
Something that I think we made a really good point of with the article that we released on Monday is number one thing to think about is your efficacy or your efficiency, however you want to define each. But thinking about that as success rather than time worked.
Absolutely.
And what you're talking about with journaling, I've personally found incredibly helpful, but I do it at night only. And I do it as a next day strategy session. So for me, it does two things.
Sure.
One, I get to put everything I'm thinking about that I need to do tomorrow on paper. So it takes it out of my mind and it helps me sleep.
Which helps your subconscious let go of it. Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't have to think, what am I supposed to be doing tomorrow? I can put it all down. Two, it helps me plan the however many tasks it is that I want to do to feel successful. And that's how I base my day around. Not I'm going to clock in at 8 and I'm going to clock out at 5. It's I'm going to have a successful day when I do A, B, and C. Or maybe it's just A. Maybe that's all it takes to have a successful day.
Yeah.
And I think to me, that was what helped break the cycle. That's what would help not get up in the morning exhausted and tell myself, okay, if I just really work hard all day, I will be successful by the end of the day. But you don't come in with a strategy. You don't come in rested. And so to me, like, breaking the cycle and having a strategy that you start with is important, and it's critical.
I really like that idea that in my journal at the end of the day, I might have some notes I've made throughout the day of things that I want to get at tomorrow, or what I'm noticing, or what derailed me about what I wanted to do for my self-care today. And they're kind of accumulating. And then at the end of the day, I like your thoughts, Alex, about prioritizing for tomorrow. So it becomes a collection of what noticings and a prioritizational focus for the next day, a plan for it, and a review. So it's always a plan and review in that sense of journaling.
So it seems like a major takeaway of tonight is if we can trust that taking the 10, 20 minutes out of our day, again, personally, I like doing it at night, and reflecting and also strategizing, that 20 minutes is going to pay itself back the next day.
All research shows that the more prioritizing we do, the more scheduling we do, the more self-resourcing we do, like taking those breaks for ourselves, the more the productivity goes up. The more we try to push through using every ounce of energy in our internal battery to just push through to the end of the day, the less efficient we are. And like we mentioned in the blog, Parkinson's law, work is like a vacuum. If we give it the hours, it'll just fill up. It doesn't mean we're efficient or not. It doesn't mean that we're balanced. It doesn't mean that we're mindful. And it doesn't mean that we're happy.
Yeah, and I think those days specifically, we wake up and our inbox directs our work.
Yes.
And all we've really done for an entire day is respond to emails and those little tiny fires that come up. But we've never actually accomplished part of a larger goal that we've established. And that can be part of the strategy. Part of your strategy that you set for that night is part of your journaling. It can be, I'm going to respond to emails from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m.
Exactly. You can limit your day for when you're going to focus on what. The other thing, we have to watch the culture that we have in our mind and the culture that we have that we work within. And this culture has been moving. You know, in the 1970s, we were going to go down to the 35-hour work week. It was universal. Everyone was heading there. Europe definitely did it. Now we're working more like a 50-hour work week. And it doesn't mean we're more productive. It's just we're giving away more of our own personal time. The most highly effective people all prioritize. They never just work on whatever shows up. And they're always asking themselves those questions, like in the blog that you put out, Alex, is this relevant? Am I doing this because I would rather be doing this than something else? These are just, again, mindfulness questions to ask ourselves to really stay focused and be the most effective we can, because then our satisfaction goes up. We know when we're highly effective and our energy management is balanced, that we're happy at work. I want to talk about the cultural part of it a little bit. If we're working in a corporation, we should have the right to ask for change. If we're doing everything we can for ourselves, we're doing our mindfulness and our journaling and our planning and reviewing and scheduling, and we're recharging ourselves with the 5 pillars of health, balanced health, but we're still hitting constant stress and dissatisfaction because we're not empowered to be in the decision-making process, or management just doesn't seem to care about us, or we never get reviewed. We never have a performance review and get a chance to be appreciated or respected. These are all major contributors to burnout as well. And if we have to make a change at work, we may need to take a vacation for a week or two, unplug, and really seriously think about who we're working for and whether it's serving us and we're serving it. Sometimes we have to make the hard decision. I would never recommend quitting just out of a knee-jerk reaction when we're down and low and our energy's low and we're burnt out. It's better to take that vacation, unplug, and do a great contemplative self-analysis about all of it. And then come back and go talk to your manager or HR and ask for some changes. Change can be a huge thing. It might be changing a division or changing a project or changing the team you're on or changing any number of things, responsibilities, clients. And if you're a valuable employee, any smart manager will help you make a change, because that change can just shift things for us sometimes. Sometimes we need better clarity about the expectations and our roles and responsibilities within that. And all employees need to have empowerment over their time. All employees need that. As soon as we lose empowerment to make a difference in our own efficacy, then we become, basically, that's when we become cynical. And that's one of the key ingredients is to burnout. So we need to be in a corporate culture where we feel we can ask for these things. There's somebody in the organization that seriously considers us as a worthwhile contributing individual and that our needs are important. We need to be working in a team that has positivity. We need to know that there's not gossip going on, that people use nonviolent communication to deal with misunderstandings, to deal with misinterpretations, so that we don't go to a third party and we start, getting into that cycle of negativity. We need to work in teams that have powerful communication formulas and a feeling of positivity and inclusion. And lastly, sometimes we have to quit our job because there's nobody who's just going to look after us. We have to look after ourselves. And if we've done everything on our personal level, and then we've gone to the corporation side and done everything we can to see about having our needs met so that we can be more productive and happier, and it doesn't work, then we have to find a corporate culture that supports that. And there's more and more corporations out there now that are seeing the win of shorter work weeks, or no communication off work time, or various different cultural things where they protect the employee's right to self-resource. So they don't just take them and wring them out to get every last bit of energy out of them.
Something I'd like to reiterate, and it's going through my mind, is the confidence in this framework being more efficient than just busting your ass throughout the day. And my personal anecdote is that my morning routine takes anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes, but it is without fail something I practice daily, because I took that leap of faith and I said, okay, I'm going to go from the typical get up, get right in the shower, drink a cup of coffee, and just get this engine revved, get into the office, read my emails, and get as much done as possible and leave at 5. And it took me a massive leap of faith to say, you know what, I'm going to change things up, and I'm going to start my day with a morning meditation. And I'm going to see if this 20 minutes that I take in the morning, this investment pays itself off throughout the day. And from day one, it did. And I haven't stopped since that day. So I think that that's something that I would like to challenge you all to do, and take 5 minutes to start. But just take what you consider time that you could be working and pull it into what Kirk's talking about. So time to contemplate, time to journal, time to strategize, and do it for a week. And like we teach at Mountain Trek, maybe try it for 3 days out of the week to start, and just see what happens, and try to journal along the way so you can actually measure it. So it's not just qualitative, and see, does taking 5, 10, 15, 20, whatever it is in the morning away from potential time working, does that actually make me more efficient throughout the day? And I think that'll be an interesting study for everyone to do.
Yes, we deserve to be happy in our jobs. And if we're happy, like not just fleetingly moments of happiness, but a general sense of satisfaction and creativity and reciprocity, we're going to perform. We're going to be our very best. And we deserve that. And ultimately, a smart corporation, they want that. The cost of replacing employees is tremendously draining. The cost of sick days, the cost of dissatisfied, cynical employees crushes corporations.
Yeah, burnout is a downward cycle. You drain yourself during the day, and that subsequently hurts your performance the next day, which drains you and also depletes you from wanting to do anything rejuvenating. And you continue that cycle. But the upward cycle does exist.
Yes.
You can actually, like Kirk says, resource yourself. And then work is empowering. Work is rejuvenating. Accomplishing things at work and accomplishing projects, that's a part of success. That's part of being a human and feeling good about your path. And it can put you on an upward cycle. So it is possible, very much. Burnout is something that we can turn around and start.
Totally. Yeah. But we have to take the empowerment to ourselves to do it. The empowerment to care of ourselves first. And then if it's more of a corporate issue, the empowerment to check every way we can whether things could change in the corporate culture. If they can't, then it's the empowerment to change our circumstances. We never have to be stuck for life in something that's crushing us. We deserve to have peace, creativity, good relationships, productivity, sense of self-worth. All of those are human rights. But we have to do the things that Alex is talking about so that we connect to the ourselves that's authentic, that's measuring whether we're happy in our life or not. And we're going to do that with mindfulness and journaling and noticing, and then make the changes required. None of these changes are rocket science. Any feedback, anything that any of you've learned on your journey through your employment and periods of burnout, or employees that you've had that have had burnout, or anything like that?
I mean, I'll say I made the transition after corporate world for 30 plus years, and sort of, yeah, I guess it was a form of burnout. I mean, I actually enjoyed all the jobs that I had, but my true passion is travel. Of course, now is the worst possible time I could have made that transition, but That's what I'm most passionate about. So there are no regrets, honestly. And I believe there's so much pent up demand that in 2021, when things open back up again, it'll be great. And there still are people traveling, but yeah, I mean, I had experienced a burnout where it's like, corporate was great, but it's time to pursue my true passion. So yeah.
That's great. I think that moment of realization is what breaks that cycle.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions or suggestions or experiences to share?
I'm Vina. Hi. I have to be. I'm based in Atlanta,
Oh,
and yes, Simone, I heard you talking earlier. Great. I'm a hypnotherapist, and I actually just launched a meditation YouTube channel. So I'm really into meditation. I've really resonated with a lot of what you've been saying. But I don't think I've really found a corporate culture that has been easy to adapt to. I've always felt burnout. But
Yeah.
I'm in private practice now, and that was sort of my way of taking care of myself and pursuing creative projects. But I think that I'm starting to see more companies who are sort of embracing some of these ideals, but I've really struggled with finding any sort of corporate environment that I've felt was healthy.
Yeah, that's a great contribution. Something that I noticed when I lived in San Francisco is, and I hope it's evolved since I moved away 3 years ago, but what was kind of a little bit scary to me is that companies are quote unquote investing in mental health and burnout of their employees. But what they're doing is giving them ping pong tables and giving them food at lunch and giving them flexible hours. But what I kind of noticed is that it blurs the line between work and life. And
Mm-hmm.
it allowed and invited their employees to stay longer at the office because it felt like, hey, if I take an hour lunch break and I get free food and I play some ping pong, I don't have to leave work. I mean, even Google building campuses with lodging for their employees,
Totally.
this line is getting blurred, and it's unfortunate because I don't think it's the right thing. They're trying, but
Mm-hmm.
doing it correctly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And,
Yeah.
and since the recession, honestly, most corporations took a downsize, but haven't upsized since. In terms of people had to take more responsibilities when employees were let go, and the amount of work responsibility and hours required now is way up compared to even 2009.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we have to fight for our rights, not necessarily to leave the company, but to take those 5-minute breaks in our office or do the things we need to resource ourselves and limit distraction, and so that we're more focused and efficient and happier.
Mm-hmm. I liked what you said about asking for what you need. I feel like that's particularly hard in a corporate environment, but I'm sure it's possible.
It'll come down to the deal breaker. Either they'll see the value in you as an employee and try to
Mm-hmm.
work with you, or it's time to find another company that will be happy to have,
Right. Yeah.
just like you and Simone did.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have to leave.
Yeah.
We'll
Mm-hmm.
talk. We'll talk.
I'll tell you a quick story about my big burnout. I was a park ranger for about 25 years, and it was like the best years of building trails and cabins way up in the mountains. And it was an awesome job. And in the 1990s, we doubled the parkland in British Columbia, but we halved all the employees, all the park rangers. So then I was supposed to sit in a desk in front of a computer for the first time, instead of go out and take care of the grizzly bears and the plants and everything in the mountains. And I went crazy. I went so crazy that I actually got some cardboard and cut out these wings and I taped them to my body, and I jumped out the second story window of my office into a snowbank and flapped my wings and ran around the office building. And then I gave my notice. I left my pension, I left everything, because if I was going to lose my soul, it wasn't worth it.
Mm-hmm.
So we all have to ask, we have to have that mindfulness to ask, is it an 80-20? Am I getting 80% of what I need from this job or this career, this team I'm working with, or is it the other way around? Am I only getting 20 and I'm giving 80? That's where the mindfulness part comes in, is we have to be checking in with ourselves, because it's so easy to get on that treadmill and then catch ourselves a period of time later going, what happened? I'm not the same person I wanted to be.